Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and welcome to Raid Shadow Legends guides and infographics. In this video, we are going to talk about one of the most iconic epic champions in Raid Shadow Legends, and that is Alure. Now, we will go over an HD infographic showcasing the general overarching capabilities of Alure, and then we'll also talk about the masteries and the ways to build her properly and what makes her such a special and important epic champion in the game. Let's get into it. Alrighty, now first of all, as always, for the guides here on the channel, we do provide you with that HD infographic that I will have for you down below in the video description and also the pinned comment if you would like access to that. Now, okay, for Alure, as far as the base stats, she is pretty squishy. She has really good base attack for an epic champion, but the base HP and the base defense are very low, and also her speed is not great. It's at a 96, and we do have to build her as a high-speed champion. Now, when we get to building Alure, it is going to take a lot. She is very gear-dependent, because you need basically every single stat on her, almost. And there's some that you can not stack, but also she has 0 accuracy, and we're going to need to build her with enough accuracy to be effective in the content we are clearing. So she is a little bit of a more mid to end game champion that can be tough to build properly, but if you do, you can definitely reap the rewards. Then as we shift on over to her abilities, the main calling card of her utility is the A1 here, where you attack 3 times at random and you decrease the target's turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. So you do have to build her to make sure she's critting consistently and get her up as close to 100% crit rate as you can, because you always want to get value out of this default A1. It's one of the coolest A1 defaults in the game for an epic champion. And if you're a new player, it's important to understand that even though this is not placing a debuff, you do need accuracy in order to lower an opponent's turn meter. So that's why we have to build Alure with enough accuracy to get consistent value out of this A1. She is not really utilized much for her A2 and her A3. She can hit decent for an epic champion, but people don't really build her with an insane amount of crit damage and an insane amount of attack. Usually you're trying to build her to be as tough as you can get her, to be as fast as you can get her, to make sure that you're doing as many of these default A1s so that she can suppress the turn meter within the context of the team that she's trying to enable. But the A2 is an AoE that can do some interesting things, like also placing a sleep and stuff like that. And then the A3 is going to ignore defense and has that extra chance to hit hard. So it's like super early game. You could build her to do a decent amount of damage, but it really isn't the way that we're going to be trying to utilize Alure in most builds. So now let's head on over to the Alure that I have got built on my main account, and we will take a look at the booking process, the masteries, the sets to consider, and what stat thresholds you're going to want to hit. Okay, so here is my main Alure that I've got built on the account. And I say main Alure because Alure is one of those champions that you can definitely justify keeping 2 or 3 copies of her, because there's even some builds in some situations versus some bosses where you might want to bring 2 Allures. So she is a great one to use for faction guardians, and make sure you keep 2 or 3 others, so that way you always have an Alure at your disposal if you're trying to put together a build later on in the end game versus a certain Doom Tower boss or something like that. But anyway, when we are building an Alure, we need to make sure that we have enough accuracy to land the consistent turn meter suppression on our A1, and we also need to get her as close to 100% crit rate as possible, because her A1 is not going to decrease turn meter unless it crits. And then after that, you're just looking to get as much survivability on her as you can, because she is a pretty squishy champion with low defense. Now that means for the accessories down here, your banner is usually going to be accuracy, which is with as much speed and toughness as you can get. And then for the amulet here, you will typically probably want a defense amulet with as much accuracy as you can get. I was building my Alure for a min-maxed, fast as possible Fire Knight 25, and I was able to stack just a little bit of damage on her to speed up my runs by a couple seconds. But you will usually want to get your best defense or HP amulet that has accuracy as a substat. And then on the ring, again, she has such a low base defense that getting a flat defense ring can be pretty good on her, but you typically just want to get as much toughness as you can get on the ring. The boots are almost always going to be speed, because we've got to have her going fast, and we've got to have her cycling through to do as many of those A1 defaults as possible to keep turn meter suppression up. And then on the chest, you can, kind of go with what you need. If you need the accuracy, accuracy because you're in some sort of high Doom Tower boss or whatever, go that route. But otherwise, you can go with toughness and tankiness on your chest. You're looking for the speed, the accuracy, and the toughness. Again, on the gloves, crit rate gloves can be pretty good on her because remember, we need to get up as close as possible to that 100% crit rate threshold. Otherwise, you can go for some tankiness there. And then the top ones are pretty simple. We're just looking for speed, accuracy, and tankiness mostly. That's why some of the best sets on her are going to be things like perception and speed and stuff like that, because they give you those stats that you need. Then for the booking process, a really cool thing about Allure is that you do not need to spend books on her. Remember, we're not trying to do a bunch of damage and blast through a bunch of cooldowns and cycling cooldown abilities or anything. I have mine booked just because I use her all the time and I wanted the points for CVC and I'm endgame, so I had the epic books to spend. But if you're in the progression phase of your account, you don't need to spend epic books on your Allure. We're trying to build her for utility and not damage. On the A1, which this A1 is like 90% of her value, we're getting nothing but damage. We're not even getting like chance or bonus turn meter suppression or anything. So you don't have to feel bad at all about not booking your Allure or spending a single book on her, which is a really cool feature of Allure as a champion. You got other champions like Doom Priest and stuff like that, where you can extract some pretty good value out of them as a champion without having to do a crazy book investment. Then for the masteries, remember she has that triple hitter A1, so a mastery like Giant Slayer can be very good and help you do a lot of damage in PvE, especially in boss fights. And remember, she is amazing in boss fights because of her turn meter suppression. But also worth noting, if you are struggling to get enough accuracy on her, you may want to go down the support tree and go down to Eagle Eye. I would prioritize the speed and accuracy on her over the damage. But once you've kind of got a more min-maxed optimized build, then you can sneak in a little bit of damage when you're trying to do a faster Fire Knight run, for example, like I was talking about. So I went with the Giant Slayer. But also these masteries are on the infographic that we provide down below if you ever want to pull them up on your end. And now I want to show Allure in action a little bit. And this is from a video that I did a while back where it's called my Stage 120 full auto dark Fae team. And even me as an endgame player facing one of the hardest Doom Tower bosses, you can see that I am using an Allure right here. Allure is going to be the champion over on the far right. And right there, you see me hitting the boss and getting a little bit of turn meter suppression. Let me show you what it is like in slow motion right there. So that is my Allure right there. You see those 3 decreased turn meters on the boss. That is my Allure slamming with that default ability and constantly suppressing the turn meter. So you'll see on this run as it is going, my Allure right there, boom, decreasing turn meter, and we just constantly keep cycling through. So in the context of a extremely hard boss like Dark Fae, you will definitely want an Allure and you will definitely get value out of her in the end game. She is absolutely critical for certain boss fights like this, and she is also exceedingly amazing and in tons of Fire Knight teams as well. So I will show you my Fire Knight 25 team, and Allure is right here on the corner of my camera. So this is going to be an endgame viable Fire Knight build for Fire Knight 25, the final stage of that first iteration of those dungeons that you're going to want to get to grind out gear. And look at the Allure right there, slamming that turn meter down. As soon as I get the shield eliminated on the Fire Knight, my Allure is just going to keep cycling through. As long as I've got her in high speed and enough accuracy for those things to land, along with the crit rate to constantly be hitting those triple turn meter suppressions, you can see how absolutely devastating she is, even in the end game at Fire Knight 25 in the context of my team. And she is an absolutely critical champion for being able to take advantage of the Fire Knight mechanics and lots of different situations like this where you can really focus that turn meter suppression. Now, it's worth noting that you may think she is amazing in the spider because of this, because you can constantly decrease the turn meter of the spider. But remember, we can't target her turn meter suppression. It's attack 3 times at random. So it's really, really good in a single target scenario. But the spider has all those spiderlings everywhere. So what happens is Allure is going to be taking turns and hitting a bunch of spiders, and she's not really going to be suppressing the turn meter of the boss, and she's just going to be helping the boss to get more spiderlings and summon them. So she really doesn't get used much against the spider, but in a situation like this against the Fire Knight, she is absolutely amazing. So now let's head on over to the tier list and let's put in Allure and see how she kind of comes out. A 61.7, which is honestly pretty good for an epic champion. And the thing with Allure is she's either really good or she is really trash. There really isn't a whole lot of in between with Allure. She either is going to fit in and really enable a certain build or composition or team to really do well, and she's going to be crucial for that team, or it's going to be a situation where you just do not want to bring Allure at all, like the Demon Lord or something, where she is just completely trash. But anyway, if we scroll down to get a more detailed breakdown of the grades, you can see she is not very great in the arena. You can get some decent turn meter and some sleep and stuff early game, but you're really not going to end up using her there. She's great in faction wars. She's really solid in the Doom Tower because she's going to be really good against some of those bosses, and most notably Dark Fae, one of the hardest bosses in the Doom Tower, so great there. Clan Boss, Hydra, Demon Lord, all of that, she is not going to be shining there. Same thing, like we talked about with the Spider, you cannot decrease the Dragon's turn meter, so loses a lot of her value there. But she is absolutely incredible in the Fire Knight. And then also I want to talk about her scarcity and progression and endgame stuff over here in the other section, because this is kind of important about Allure. So you know, as far as scarcity, she does have a really cool A1 that even isn't really replaced by a legendary champion. It's a really solid role that she has in the game. So really every account out there is gonna want to have an Allure built, and that's why she has a very high scarcity score. Now her progression score, you may be wondering, if she's such a good champion and she can do all this stuff to bosses and all of that, all these different things that she brings, why is her progression score low? Well, Allure, she needs like every stat. So she's very gear dependent. She's very tough to build effectively. She's got 0 accuracy, but you have to get her with enough accuracy. Her base speed isn't great. She's very squishy. So in the very early game of raid, it can be tough to build the proper team around her with good enough gear on her to really unlock her true potential. But you can see her score is actually higher in the end game, because once you're able to really build min-maxed teams, Allure is going to shine in good gear within the context of a good team, filling the role that she provides with her A1 that suppresses the turn meter. And that's exactly why Allure is that kind of champion, because she's so kind of specific in her role and the team that she's functioning in. Like I said, you could even build her with like Giant Slayer and try to do damage in the Fire Knight. Then you may be in a situation against the Dark Fae where you're not worried about doing damage. You just want to make sure she's suppressing the turn meter as good as possible. That means it can make a lot of sense to keep dupe Allures, because each situation is going to be kind of different, and you may want 2 different builds for your Allure. So definitely hold on to at least one of her, but I would honestly recommend for most of you that you hold on to 2 or 3 Allures, because she is a very specific niche role, awesome champion that you are going to always want to make sure you have access to. So there we have it. Remember to subscribe on your way out if you enjoy daily, dedicated Raid Shadow Legends champion guides from multiple different perspectives here with all of the great collaborators that I'm working on this with Scratch, HWZ, and Cold Brew. We are dedicated to bringing you daily graphics and guides on some of the most impactful champions in Raid Shadow Legends. And let me know your thoughts on Allure down below as well. I will see you soon in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.